Greetings, Pilgrims, and welcome to another episode of the Polygon Pilgrimage, and today we are going to continue with our Starship Pilgrim here. I really appreciate everybody's kind feedback on the last episode. You guys love the fact that we're doing kind of a little series here where we leave all the mistakes in. You know, we're going to just work on this together, and we're going to stumble through it together, and we're going to learn a lot, and there's a lot to be learned from kind of struggling through things. Typically in my episodes, I try to have things already planned out for you and show you how it works, and that's great too. But there's a lot to be learned for both me and for you for going through this together. So today we're going to continue with our Greyboxing. We're working on just the overall shapes of things. We're not worried about any of the finite details. We just want to get roughly how big is everything, okay? So last time we left off here, we have the overall ship, just kind of the general size. He doesn't even have a bottom to him yet, and we're going to wait on that until we know the size of some of the floors that are in this guy. He's only got 4 floors to him. So we're going to work that out together today, and we're going to do some general cleanup and just work on getting the project organized so we can move forward effectively. All right, so to begin, what we're going to do is let's do some cleanup. All right, so I'm going to go over to my attribute editors channel box, and you see we have our reference here. So if I turn off everything that is visible in our reference, you see that we have very little actual geometry in the scene. And that's okay, but we need to organize our reference, and we want to make some changes to it. So first up, let's grab this center plane here that is our side profile image of our ship, and we're going to move it over because we want to make sure that when we look from the side, we can see it, but it's not in our way when we're doing stuff from the front and back. Excellent. Our ground plane here, let's go ahead and name these things. Ground plane, there we go. And let's name our ship pieces, okay? So right now, I'm just going to call this GB, so that means it's gray box. It's not anything special, and I'm going to underscore. This means that everything we do that is a gray box, as long as we name it appropriately, it will all be kind of like piled together in our hierarchy, okay? So this is going to be the left-hand side of the ship, and what we're going to be doing is, no, this is right hand. I was going to say left hand based upon how we look at it, but let's do right. And this will be left. So GB underscore ship, and then left. Underscore left. There we go. So now they will show up together in the hierarchy when we have them. We can select them much more easily. Excellent. Okay, and let's also name our little person reference here. So we can call this human, actually, ref underscore human. This way, everything that is a reference will be put together as well. Very cool. Okay, so let's name these things as well. Ref underscore side. There we go. And then each of these, oh, there's our ground plane. So let's immediately start doing our layering here. So we need to put a lot more references in here, but we don't want to keep clicking on the ground plane versus this thing. You know, see, I can't even get to it yet. So let's make sure that we give ourselves proper layers here. So I'm going to create a new layer. And what I want to do is, I think this button is to create and add. Maybe not. I know one of them is. So let's call this geometry. So all of our geometry is going to go in here. Okay. And we don't really care what color, but we'll just give it a color in here just so it's nice and visible. So our ground plane, this guy, and we're going to leave this guy alone. Even though he is geometry, we're going to use him a lot, so we don't want him to be hidden with our geometry. Okay, so I'm going to right click and say add selected objects. And so now all of those are on my geometry, so I hit visible and turn that off. They go away. Okay, so the ship is still there, but it's hidden right now, just like that. That means that now I can select these image planes. And this image plane is a special type of object that was created from our top-down viewport. And we want to make sure that we make duplicates of this, name them appropriately, and then name them for our different layers. So I hit spacebar and go out and go into the top viewport here. And you can see that it doesn't quite line up exactly, but we got really, really close. And that's okay. What we're going to do is we're just going to use one side of it as a reference. And then what we're going to do is take that side and just mirror it perfectly along the axis. It's not going to line up perfectly. That's okay. That's the nature of reference. It's not a big deal. It's not anybody's fault. All right. I'm not quite sure what this thing is, but I think these are some of the objects that Maya uses, so I'm not going to touch them. There we go. All right. So with this guy set, he's already set to deck 3. So let's just name him. We're going to say ref deck 3. All right. Very cool. Now there is a deck 4, which is beneath him. So I'm going to hit Control D and then drag down a little bit. And you can see now there's 2 of them. So this bottom one down here, let's select that guy. And he's already set to deck 4. Look at that. Okay, it increments, so that's very nice. But now it will not decrement for me. So if I want to create deck 2, I can say Control D, slide it up. It's going to say 5 because it's incrementing from the last one. So we just have to change this to 2. There we go. And of course, we're going to change the images in just a second. Control D, drag this up a little bit more. There we go. And of course, this guy is going to be deck 1. Very cool. So there's all of our reference planes. Now we're going to have to go through and just change the image on each one. But before we do that, let's grab each one and let's make sure they're on the reference level here. So add selected. So now if I turn off all my reference, all of those go away. And again, I'm going to leave this guy here. He really should be on the reference layer, but I want to be able to hide their things. He's kind of just his own thing right now. All right, so let's bring back our reference. And let's start to put in the correct floors here. So this bottom one, I'm going to select that guy. And if we go to the attribute, here we go. I can choose my image. So I go to my images here. I can select floor 4. There you go. He's down there. There he is. And we're going to work on one at a time, so it doesn't really matter. And later we'll be able to alpha this out. And we can see them all stacked on top of each other. It'd be really cool. So number 2, let's go to 2 and add 2. There we go. Yep, just making sure he worked. Yep, and then top one is floor 1. There he is. Okay, so now those are all set. Very good. Let's make sure that we save. And what I like to do for saving, so let's go save scene as. You'll notice that it says blockout_1. I'm going to change it to blockout_2. So the first part of my naming convention here is what phase am I in of the project. Everything's stored in project name. Here it says Pilgrim, so I know what project it is. So I don't have to call this Pilgrim blockout, Pilgrim ship blockout. I know it's the blockout for this project. So then I'm going to say blockout and then _1, 2, 3. I just increment as I go along. This way I keep a running tally of where I'm at. And if I need to step back, I have, kind of a history. Let's say save as. There we go. So now we're all set. Okay, so next up, we're going to start just creating the floors. And we're not even going to worry about where they are in here yet. We're just going to worry about putting down some base geometry to get the shapes of them. So we don't really care about decks 2, 3, or 4 right now. So let's get all of those selected. 2, 3, and 4. And I'm going here to display, hide selection, or Control H. So let's learn the keys together. So Control H, there we go. So we've hidden all of them. They're still here in the outliner and I can still bring them back, but they're hidden from our view so we don't get confused. All right. Now I'm going to minimize the outliner and I'm going to bring over my reference and put it right about here. So this is the Quadro again. So we have this really cool image program here. And the important thing is we're going to be working on floor number 1. Oops, I did not want to do that. Let's close that. It's Shift. No, it is not Shift. It is Control. Oh, Alt and drag to move the image around within the pane. Very good. And then you can scroll in and out to do that. Very cool. So we're working on this first floor here, which is going to be this. As you can see, there's this really cool window that goes around, but the walls are kind of slanted. So that's one of the things we have to take into account with this. If you look at this from the top down, we got these 2 thick lines. So this first line, this line here that goes along here and stops here and goes up, that's kind of telling us where this part right here is with the ceiling. But this is telling us a bit more where this window is. But if you notice in the reference here, the window kind of goes all the way around. So we got to kind of work that out a little bit. But then over here, this is an interior wall, and then this is an exterior wall. Okay, so for today, we're just going to work on the interior walls, and then we can build the exteriors and slant them. And everything's going to change and move around, so don't expect it to be final. Then we got this thing in the middle. This is our turbo lift thing. We're going to block that out too. Okay, so I hit spacebar again. I'll hit spacebar up here for the top viewport. And we're working mostly in this. All right, so let's begin by getting the turbo lift figured out and the little, these are shafts where you can climb up and down this ladder. That's what these are. So we'll start with that. So we'll do a cylinder. And I'm not going to worry about anything about it, not even the subdivisions, nothing. I'm just going to say it's a cylinder. Okay. Now I'm going to move it. It automatically puts it at the center X, I believe. So I'm just going to move it kind of to the center of this. There we go. Now let's make sure that our reference plane is centered on X. I don't think that works, actually. We just kind of center it ourselves like that. All right. So now let's go back out to the 3D viewport here. And let's look at for our cylinder. It's going to be really tiny. It's probably that. Let's see. It's going to be really, really tiny because it's so small. So this is where the outliner really comes in handy. Let's move Quadro. So we need our cylinder. Where'd he go? Cylinder. There he is. So the cylinder is going to be really, really small at first. Let's scale that up big time. There we go. Boom. Just make it loud and in our face. There we go. It's going to be pretty small because this is a massive ship. So let's go ahead and scale this down to about the right size. Just something like that. There we go. And then I'm going to make a duplicate and move it over. And then we're going to scale it again. And this time, I'm going to scale it down. We're going to work on just one side of the ship. So we're going to work on the positive X side. That way when we mirror over, we know it's a negative X to mirror over that way. Okay? Let's scale this down, make sure he's the right size. What I like to do is get it to be about 80%. Get him in the center like that, and then it's easy to kind of scale up and say, okay, that's about where it ends. Very cool. So if we look at that, we've got our, and obviously the height is wrong, but don't worry about that for now. Just kind of getting these shapes in. All right, awesome. Now, let's get the floors going in. So the floor is going to be built using a plane. So I'm going to build the plane. There we go. And now if I go up here into the plane options, I'm going to set its divisions down to 1 each. And then crank these up. It's still going to be really tiny, but you'll see. So let's move this out of the way. There we go. There's our plane. And all he needs to do, I've got a handle to it. He needs to just come up above this, at some point above it. Doesn't matter where yet. And he just needs to expand. So we're going to scale him up. Scale him up real big. There we go. Cool. Let's go back to our top view. And what we're going to do first is go to our vertices. I'm just going to move these two guys way over here somewhere. And move these two guys to 0 on the X. That means they're exactly lined up. Actually, I did the wrong set because I did this earlier. There we go. 0 on the X. Now these guys are at, yeah, positive X this way. Very cool. Okay, so we're just going to get the rough outline of the room worked out. And what I'm going to do for now, it's going to need to change, is I'm going to end the room right here where this line is. And I know it's not entirely correct. You can see here that this goes all the way to the edge of the window, probably down this way, but we don't want to worry too much about that. I mean, we could go all the way like this, but it's going to get a little messy. So we'll stop here for now. We'll come back because there's a lot more to do with this. Don't you worry. All right, let's bring this guy all the way up to the back wall here. Something like that. Okay, so now we need some division. So I'm going to select the 2 edges through here. And I've set up my tools here so that if I hit 1, it goes to vertices, 2, it goes to edges, and then 4, it goes to faces. Okay, so that's how I'm doing that. I can just select like that. We're going to hit connect, Q to finalize it, W to move it. And what I'm going to do is move this so it's about halfway in between here and here. There we go, just something like that. And then let's do a bevel. And we don't quite want that much, just a little bit, but probably 0.1. 0.1? No, 0.1's too much, 0.015. Yeah, just something like that. So it'll give us a little bit of space between them. So sorry about that. We had a little bit of an issue there, but I fixed it. I accidentally hit a button that turned us into NURBS mode. So now we've got everything all lined up. So just 2 cuts here and lining these up to here. And then we can move those over and line those up kind of like that. There we go. And then down here we can alter this a little bit and kind of get a little closer with that line. Very cool. All right, we need another one, another cut through here. Connect Q, very good. I'm going to first just move this over. Then I'm going to grab both of these and move it up. Kind of get that lined up. Take this guy and move him over. And again, this is very, very rough. We're not going to worry about exacting anything right now, okay? Now for this guy, we're not even going to worry about the doors yet. I'm just going to take the polygon here and I'm going to duplicate it and no, let's not do that. That's too much. We'll just leave that. No, what we'll do is we'll take an extrusion. There we go. So I'm going to extrude that, move it over, and just line it up with the back wall there. And this will remind me that we're going to do this, but right now we'll leave the walls out of the equation. We're just going to get the general space that everything is involved in here. Okay, so this floor is done as far as our very rough block out of it. Okay, so what we need to do now is give this some kind of a layering. I'd like to make sure everything is at the same point. So if I take this guy and figure out where you at, let's give it a nice number of 4,000. That sounds good to me. So 4,000 on the Y. There we go. And now I can take every other vertice that we're involved with here, hold V, and then click and drag, connect right there. Now everything is at 4,000. So it's a nice even number, and we know that they're all together. Very cool. Now, what we want to do is give ourselves a little bit of a head start on walls here. So what we were thinking of doing here is that all of our walls were going to be about 10 feet high. That's the general dynamic for walls. So let's bring our person into play here because he'll really help us out. So here's our person reference. So let's bring him up. If we put him in the room here, so just kind of drag him around. I do this all the time. This really helps me kind of figure out how big the space should be based upon a person, right? So there he is. Very cool. Let's go back to this, go back to the edges we had selected. And I'm going to Control E to extrude and drag them up. And Q to stop. So when they're about as tall as he is, see, they're a little bit taller. So a little bit comfortable height and then a little bit higher. So this is very, very rough right now. We're just making sure that there's enough room for a person to reasonably walk around in this room. Okay, there we go. Doesn't look too bad, does it? All right, so now let's make a duplicate of this. And what we'll do here is say, I think it's under mesh. Yes, mirror, yes. Okay, and we're gonna mirror, we're going to make a copy, offset on the X. And I wish I could do a minus. Let's do a minus 100. Sure. And we don't want to merge, combine with the original. No, we want it to be an entirely new thing. And let's hit apply and see what happens. Oh, there he is, way over there. Okay. Oh, I see. This offset is how much based upon off of X. We don't want that at all. So just 0 is fine. There we go. And say Q. Now we should have two objects. Yep. Two objects that make up our room here. So let's name these appropriately. So go to our channel box, and I'm going to name this Greybox underscore deck 1. And this is going to be the right-hand side. And I go here and say Greybox deck 1 left-hand side. There we go. Okay, so as we did before, we have a right and left for our ship. We have a right and left for this even floor here. So now what we should do is let's give this a proper layer so we can say what happens if in the future we want to see just deck 1 or we're going to see just deck 2. So what we're going to do over here is grab each of these. So I'm going to say, you can even grab them from here now. So I can go into Greybox and say deck 1, deck left, and Greybox deck 1. Where'd he go? I don't actually see him. Right and left, right. Oh, it's under plane 1. That's quite odd. Okay, so if it's under plane 1, what we should first do is let's delete by type and delete our history and just make it just an object. There we go. So these two guys, we're going to give them their own layer now. Add selected objects, turn on visible, they turn off. And let's name this deck 1. Save. There we go. So now as we're working on deck 1, we can just go ahead and hide that. And we can see below it and we can say, bring back deck 1. I want to see what it looks like. Very cool. Okay. So with that complete, let's take these two guys. This is part of our elevator here. And I'm going to scale them, and I'm going to scale them up real big. So like this. This way we know that throughout the ship, this is an impenetrable thing. We need to make sure that this is kind of a stem or a spine of the ship. This is how you get to each floor. So this cannot change. We need to make sure that that's in the correct place always. And I'm going to take this cylinder here. So it needs to have its partner on the other side. I'm going to take this cylinder and change this to pivot point. So I'm going to hit D. And specifically, I'm going to put its X on 0. There we go, D. So now we're going to do the same thing we did before with mesh, mirror. And I'm going to say I want a copy. I don't want any offset at all. X, flip, apply, close. And it's already in the right place. We just hit Q. There we go. So now we have both the, looks kind of like Mickey Mouse, huh? We have the center shaft for the elevator itself, and then the two kind of ladder shafts that are going to be on either side. So good, we're starting to get the stem of our ship in place. That's looking really cool. All right, let's do one more. Let's turn off our reference. We can see there's our ship. We're gonna do one more for today. We're gonna do the next floor down. All right, so let's turn back on. You can see all of our geometry. Very cool. Turn that off. Turn deck 1 off. Turn reference back on. Okay, so now we can put this reference for deck 1 in the layer 4 deck 1 if we want, but he has a reference, so that's salt to taste. I like to keep all my references together. You might like to as well. Who knows? So let's see if we can reveal selected. Can I unhide? Show. Never did figure out how to show this object once it was hidden here. But let's see if we go to display, show. There we go. I can select it here and then show it here. That's really cool. Okay, so Control H to hide that one, and now we're on deck 2. Very cool. So let's do the same kind of thing, but first let's just make our new layer to start with. Okay, we're going to improve the process as we go. So deck 2. And you notice that if I have this deck selected and I create something new like a plane, I should be able to just instantly add it to that. So add selected objects. There we go. Let's call this plane, since we know what it's going to become, deck 2 underscore right. But this needs to be Greybox underscore deck 2 underscore right. Yeah, so it's already got a name. We're all set with that. Let's move it up. We'll knock this one out pretty quickly together. All right, let's do that. Let's scale that up. Oh, first we need to go and change our attributes to it, because I know it's going to have 10 and 10. We don't want that. I can start with it being a little bit bigger. There we go. Okay. Scale this guy up. Boop. Okay, go to the top view and second verse, same as the first. Let's move this over, take these, X to the 0. There we go. Move these guys in a bit. Now, we're only going to work on where there's going to be walkable space. So here I'm going to actually stop this here. And then these points I need to bring over to about here. And let's move these up to about here. I'm going to try to just very quickly block this out. Something like that. There we go. Okay, Control E. Stretch it out. Let's see. Go to something like that. Now this space in here, I've been asking about this. This is walkable space. So I think what we can do is just go all the way to the end here. Let's just drag that all the way back to like here. That works. All right, and we will make some edits in here. So I'll do a connection, just one for now. I'm going to move some of these points around. I need a point that I can drag over to here, but you'll notice how that affects the other side. So if I bring this over, it's now kind of, I need more in here, and it's just getting kind of unwieldy. You can see here over this side, we need to kind of come in and over. So before we do that, let's bring it down to about here. Right, there we go. And the best way to do this would be to have a semi-transparent material once you get these more complex shapes. So let's do that together. So I'm going to right click and hold. I'm going to say assign new material. It's going to be a thong. And we're going to call this, there it is, thong. We're going to call this trans, just for transparent, you know. I'll move this to the middle. And I'll bring the color all the way up. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so that material is now created. So now if I select this guy, you should have it automatically applied. Yeah, we can see through it right there. Very nice. Move this up a little bit. But it's not showing up here, and I think I need to change the way this displays up here. Is that it? Yeah, there we go. Now I can see my points through it and make building this a whole lot easier. There we go. Okay, so let's make a connection this way. And I'm going to do that by doing that, connection. And you can see it didn't fully line up because I've already started to adjust some of these edges. That's okay, we can take these and we can just kind of scale them together. And there you go, now they're in the correct spot. And we just want to put that right there. Very good. Now what we can do is actually take these, and you can go there, And you can go up here like you need to. Something like that. You could get rid of this one in here. So if I go to face and delete that, you start to see kind of what that looks like there. We've got space for that room and then this room, but this is a room too, but it's just a different shaped room. So we can do an extra cut there and extend that out, or you can just extrude it out and weld everything up again and then extrude out from there. I think that's probably the easiest step. So we'll handle that right now. So I'm going to extrude this out and go way past where I need to go. This vertice I'm actually going to combine with this one down here, but not right away. Let's put that there. Put that up here. Since we're at the walls right now, so I'm just going to snap these two and extrude from those, and we'll bring those out together. And again, we're going to stop here because this is all just empty space, or we'll fill it in with other things, but it's not going to be walkable space. Okay, there we go. Now if I select these two edges, so this little gap here, we'll select those two, and we'll just say bridge. Put those together. Very good. So there is our walkable space, less walls. We're going to put walls up eventually, but I just wanted to make sure that since I can go in this room and I can go in this room, we should have some space there for it. Okay, so now let's select our outer edges. All of these. And again, we're going to do a Control E and move it up a little bit, something like that. Looks good. Very cool. Now, this is still transparent. We might not want that. We want to put it back, so we can go back and say, choose an existing material. There you go. We'll put it back to the way it was. Very cool. Another cool trick is, if we go here, and I'm going to copy the name, and now when I do the mirroring operation, but first you'll notice that I moved it over before I started editing it. I should have just edited it right away, because now my pivot is off, so I need to change my pivot. So let's go to D, and I'm going to set 0 on the X. You can see it kind of pops up here. That's okay. Now when we go to mirror it, so we're going to go mesh, mirror, copy X. Yep, all that's good. Apply, close. Good. There we go. So now this object has this name, but it's now 2. I don't know why it became 2. There you go. Like that name, and then just paste and change that to an L. There we go. So we got 2 floors done. Now if we move our person down again, we can make sure that if he's standing on the ground, right about there, when we move him up against the wall, we can see, yeah, he's got a little bit of head height. So that's excellent. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll create one of these, or a couple of them, and put them in different areas so I can see how they look against the door frames and different things of that nature. All right, so now if we unhide floor 1, we have floor 2. Let's hide our reference so we can see our elevator shafts going between our floors. We have 2 floors of our ship done. This starts to give us an idea of the exact angle that we need for our exteriors as well, because now we know that this floor must be contained within this space, and this is the outer footprint here. We know how much space we have to work with. So excellent. I hope you guys have enjoyed. That's all for today. We'll continue next time with the next 2 floors, start to work on the exterior walls, get some of those angles down. I just wanted to do a little bit here and show you guys kind of the process step by step. You've seen every single click and everything. I haven't done anything outside of here. So I want you guys to be able to see and follow along, and we will build this awesome ship together. And now we're starting to get some spaces that hopefully soon we'll be able to get these into Unreal and Unity and be able to walk around them and actually see our ship, and that would be really cool. So thank you very much for joining me, guys. I hope that you've enjoyed. If you have any comments, questions, anything like that, please keep them coming. We're working hard through all of your user requests. We got several tutorial redos in the works. We're updating the latest versions of things, so please bear with me, but thank you so much for your kind attention. And as always, guys, keep practicing, get better, and I'll see you next time as the pilgrimage continues.